Reflections. Soul Trader, Part 1. Excerpts from Soul Trader, Identity in a Digital Age, by Mary Harrington. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake and the gospel's will save it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? Mark 8, verses 35 to 37. How does the digital era affect our identities? We are familiar with the warnings about the digital era and mental health, attention, cognitive development, bullying, pornography, and so on.
14-year-old Mia was being bullied online, and since her death, Mariano has been campaigning for children to be better protected on the internet.
Young kids, they used to have access to things that we never imagined. Because of the use of algorithms, they were constantly looking for this subject. Even if they are not looking, they will receive the information.
Bullying has evolved over time. If you were getting bullied, it was at school.
Yeah.
It wasn't coming home with you. They weren't calling your house. But now that it's on social media, now you can bully someone after hours, like on the weekends. Like you can do it all 24 hours a day. Mm-hmm. Other people can join in by liking a message or not liking it or whatever.
A new study found that most kids are seeing adult material online by the age of 12, but many of them are actually 10 or even younger.
The transgender culture war rages on. Periodically, we hear in the press that some group or other has begun to identify as animals.
That children in schools across Britain are now identifying as cats, horses, dinosaurs, and in one case, a moon.
Or fictional characters, or perhaps multiple personalities or spirits. Something odd is going on, but when we pause and zoom in, the territory becomes bewildering. What do we even mean by identity? What is an identity made of? Where do our beliefs about this phenomenon come from? It is as disorienting as trying to think about thought. As I will argue, a serious treatment of identity means examining our foundational categories for thinking about what we ourselves are. And what we believe ourselves to be has always also been bound up in what we believe reality to be. When we explore these phenomena historically, it becomes clear that the term identity has emerged only relatively recently. Google's Ngram tool, which allows the user to track the frequency of usage for a term over millions of historic texts, suggests identity emerged into mainstream cultural usage after the two 20th century world wars, accelerating rapidly from the 1960s.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Why? What preceded it? It is my contention that identity has, roughly since the 1960s, come to replace the modern secular self as a byproduct of a fundamental change that began at that point, in which we turned our technologies inward and began applying them to our own minds and bodies. And the digital era encompasses these technologies with which we did so, an era we also call the Fourth Industrial Revolution, or more dramatically, the transhumanist age. It is a central premise of this video that we are already over half a century into this transhumanist era. Meanwhile, the antecedent to identity, the secular self, emerged in tandem with modernity. As for the predecessor concept to the self, this is a term now largely defunct, at least within mainstream public conversation, the soul.
The very idea of human being some sort of natural concept is really going to change.
Our bodies will be so high-tech, we won't be able to really distinguish between what's natural and what's artificial.
Inside our own heads is the most complex arrangement of matter in the known universe.
You might ask yourself, can we get to be superhumans?
Within the Western tradition, these iterations in our ongoing effort to name and make sense of this most distinctively human of phenomena, our capacity for self-reflexive consciousness, are in turn inextricable from the information technologies that have helped to structure our efforts to understand who and what we are. The earliest known references to the soul emerged in tandem with literacy. The modern self cannot be disaggregated from the printing press, and our contemporary understanding of identity emerged in tandem with our entry into the digital era, an era that, as this video will argue, is better understood as a new form of merger with our technologies. In what follows, this video will trace the interlocking story of souls and information technologies, from Plato to our transhumanist era. At each stage, these developments have brought tremendous benefits as well as costs and metaphysical convulsions, and today is no exception. None of what follows is an argument for unplugging the internet, but if we are to survive the latest convulsions, we will need to revisit those ways we have come to apply modernity to ourselves. In its place, we can and must restore the older and fuller understanding of ourselves, not as mere bodies, not as plastic self-actuating identities, or even as data processors, but souls. And in retrieving this fuller sense of what we are, we may yet manage to escape the epistemological cul-de-sac of modernity without losing the gifts modernity has afforded us. Human-machine convergence was once a niche preoccupation for Silicon Valley tech optimists such as Ray Kurzweil, who forecasted that by 2045 humans and machines would merge, delivering untold transformative benefits. As this author has argued, in a sense, this merger has already happened, with hormonal birth control serving as its entry point.
I rather think that the noble experiment of prohibition in this country showed that the behavior of people is, as far as morals are concerned, is not determined by the availability of opportunities for sin, and I firmly believe that the effectiveness of the pill, its availability, will have no significant effect on behavior, moral behavior.
For the first time, with the pill, a medical technology was adopted not to restore normal physiological functions, specifically female fertility, in the name of health, but to interrupt normal functions in the name of individual freedom. This inaugurated a radical transformation in our understanding of what a person is, in which embodied attributes, once understood as irreducible givens, beginning with sex difference, have come to be seen as optional and subject to individual choice and re-engineering. Importantly, inasmuch as women have embraced this technologically enabled understanding of ourselves, in which female fertility is viewed as an option whose default setting is off, we have embraced our own fusion with technology as a precondition for participation in public life. Much of the mainstream social fabric in Western societies is downstream of such technologies. In other words, the default modern Western culture is already a cyborg one. Whether or not you view this as a good thing, and it has brought many benefits, including greater freedom and opportunity for some women to participate in work, study, and public life, this development also represented a profound shift change in our relationship to our technologies and in our beliefs about what it means to be a person. This shift in turn accelerated a further transition, from speaking about the self to speaking about identity, a move whose logic and profound consequences I will explore further. But it did not stop with the pill. Its second phase initially appeared in the same decade birth control was legalized, but was universalized much more recently: networked computing. As the pill began to revolutionize identity throughout the West, the U.S. Department of Defense was sponsoring the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, to explore the first networks of information processing machines, with the aim of creating a resilient network in the event of a defense crisis. Roughly half a century and a great deal of development later, the second phase of the singularity began in earnest when Apple produced the first iPhone. On its launch in 2007, Steve Jobs described this innovation as 3 products in one.
3 things: a widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communications device. These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone.
By 2021, data traffic on mobile networks increased 300-fold. 2 billion more people gained a smartphone, and 5.6 billion new smartphone subscriptions were opened. Smartphones proved to be the digital equivalent of the pill, every bit as intimate, as seemingly indispensable, and as deeply implicated in everyday freedoms and commerce. And as with the pill, the global transformation that has followed their normalization has reshaped politics, culture, sex, family, and even consciousness itself. Most centrally, it has reshaped what we mean when we say identity. For processing, an always-on, networked, handheld device enables every user to turn away from the arbitrary, immediate real-world features of our lives as the principal forces shaping who we are. Instead, it has grown increasingly possible to curate social groups based on interests and affinities, infinitely adjustable virtual avatars, and even erotic and romantic entanglements conducted partly or wholly in a dematerialized digital realm. In this context, identity has begun to work loose from embodiment, family, and other interpersonal relationships, and even in some cases our self-understanding as human beings. But even when unmoored from such familiar anchors, self-curated identities require validation in order to feel real, a dynamic that, in turn, has increased the salience of recognition as a political desideratum.
I'm Jeannie, a virtual avatar created by Union Avatars. I'm here to chat and show what digital humans can do, powered by NVIDIA's ACE. It's pretty exciting. What would you like to know? ACE, or Avatar Cloud Engine, is a suite of technologies from NVIDIA that brings digital humans to life using generative AI. It includes services like Audio Two-Face, which helps me animate my facial expressions based on your voice. It's all about making interactions with avatars more natural and engaging. Pretty cool, right?
It is not a coincidence that identity politics came to mainstream public prominence in the wake of the smartphone revolution. The so-called Great Awakening is generally dated from around 2010, with many researchers linking its emergence directly to mass adoption of social media. Now we are in the early stages of a third convergence with our machines, the onrushing development of the programs colloquially known as artificial intelligence, or AI. These technologies draw on the patterns discernible across vast datasets, granting the models themselves eerie seemingly ability to identify or even predict future patterns on the basis of existing ones. Such systems have been employed in areas as diverse as image generation, medical diagnosis, biometric security, and even criminal law. Most famously, large language models, or LLMs, such as ChatGPT, respond as if in conversation with human interlocutors, answering questions, systematizing information, and interacting in often surprising ways with questionnaires. Elsewhere, rapid and astonishing AI-powered advances in automation are proceeding everywhere, from manufacturing to transport and defense. LLM usage has already become part of mainstream culture, from management consultancy to students cheating at homework, and even one innovator employing it to approach prospective partners on a dating website. In the developing world, most of us already interact with such technologies regularly. For the most part, the response to such developments is wonder, surprise, and sometimes unease at the range of human functions that might potentially be automated by their advance. Behind the unease lies a far deeper question. Are there any limits to what these machines can do? Is there anything at all about humans that cannot be replicated, and perhaps outclassed, by one of our own inventions? The AI maximalists imagine that there is not. The endpoint of AI development will, they imagine, be artificial general intelligence, a moment at which such models leap from prediction within a specific dataset to a general power to think, after which they will become recursively self-improving. For the optimists, this represents a transformative accelerant of everything we value in human life, or even the means whereby humans create our own successor species. Conversely, pessimists warn that the risks of such a superintelligent machine destroying us are so grave that we should halt all research.
Skynet. Where's the system core? Somewhere in this building?
Skynet. The virus is infected. Skynet.
Skynet is the virus. It's the reason everything's falling apart.
Skynet has become self-aware. In 1 hour, it will initiate a massive nuclear attack on its enemy.
What enemy?
Us! Humans!
Our media is full of different visions of the future. Post-apocalyptic wastelands, sleek space utopias, cyberpunk nightmares. They promise different things waiting for us. Technology might save us from disease or ensure we're victims of our own hubris. It might lead us to strange and wonderful new worlds, or it might show us our wildest dreams are really nightmares. Futuristic ideas on our screens have even inspired real-world technologies. But the same sci-fi gadget might be viewed differently depending on who is watching. For instance, is a transporter a wonder that opens up our access to the world, or a terror that destroys, duplicates, and brings the very self into question? So, which is it? How do we think about new technologies, and what's just over the horizon?
But the most contested question, for boosters and doomers alike, is whether or not human thought and computation will ever amount to the same thing. This is illustrated by the way those existing applications of AI that cause the deepest unease tend to be those that act as if this was so, or nearly so. For example, the Character AI app enables users to create role-playing interlocutors, prompting outrage when AI character versions of murder victims were found to have been created. Such simulated people can have still more troubling sequelae. For example, in February 2024, Sewell Setzer III, a 14-year-old boy from Orlando, Florida, took his own life after forming an intense and highly sexualized relationship with a chatbot he created using Character AI. Elsewhere, common descriptors used online for the Moxie AI-powered companion robot, launched in 2021 to teach emotional intelligence to children, include creepy or even nightmare-inducing.
Come and say goodbye to Moxie.
Why final goodbyes?
The company went bankrupt. Embodied. Baby, what? Oh my God, really? Baby, it's okay.
I know you like her. She's your friend. But it's gonna be okay, alright? Enjoy the time you have with her now, okay?
Watching TikToks of people saying goodbye to their robots and me just like crying about it, that was not on my bingo card. What a weird world we live in.
We are, claims tech investor Mark Andreessen, literally making sand think. Is this, as Andreessen says, literally true? If so, it surely follows that we just need to make machine computation better, faster, and more aligned, or otherwise complete, in order for artificial intelligence to produce better and more effective thinkers than have emerged as yet from the human species. But, as I will argue in part 2 of this series, this is a profound category error that, in the end, will not aid but impede scientific understanding, and with it, real human progress.